Like, first off, do you like nature? Like,
I like it in doses. I mean, like, I like a bathroom nearby. I like a cabin nearby. I don't feel uncomfortable in nature, but I really would never camp. I'm not like camping.
yeah.
And I don't like being hot. There's like a lot of stipulation.
Mosquitoes?
I don't like mosquitoes. I don't like being too hot. I don't like getting sweaty. I feel like I'm never dressed right. And I didn't wear the right shoes. But other than that, I like nature.
Welcome to Scary Mystery Surprise,
where we talk about scary things that surprised us around the internet.
I'm Edwin.
I'm Michelle.
And I think I told you that somebody asked me, do you like nature? And I was just like, nope, I don't. So how that works into this story is that we're in the Canadian wilderness.
Oh.
Somewhere around 30 miles away from the closest town. So not that far, but
also far.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's far. That's far.
Yeah, it's like around 50 kilometers for our friends in the rest of the world. That's not the U.S. Okay, so Michelle, you're out in the forest.
Okay.
And you're roaming around, pretending you're a fairy.
Like I do.
Picking berries, skipping.
Tra-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la.
I imagined you with a basket in your hand.
Oh, yeah, that I've made because I was a fibers miner, so I understand how to make baskets.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You're going around, and all of a sudden you hear something, and you stop, and you look around, and you hear it. It's just this screeching, roaring, weird, off in the distance sound. It's just kind of like this, like this weird, what is this, right? So you freak out. You're like, ah! This is where we put in the tense music. You're like, dun, 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 dun. Like, you freak out and you run back to where you came from. And you're very good with directions, at least in my story.
Well, in life, I actually am.
Yeah?
I'm very good with directions.
But anyway, so you run back to the car.
Okay.
And you wait before starting it. Because, of course, you drove there. I don't know where you parked, but you parked around there. And you're like, I'm not going to start it. Because even though you have a Prius, dang it, the story's not going to work. It doesn't make noise.
Well, it's a rental. I have a rental car.
There you go. You have a rental like me, like a Suburban. It's just a big old rum, so you don't want to. So you wait. And as you're waiting, you notice that the sounds are getting a little bit closer. And you can still hear them through, inside of the car. You can hear them, they're out there and they're getting closer. Something is approaching. And that's when suddenly you see a tall creature, thin and pale, and it's coming out from the forest. It then flips you off and disappears back into the tree.
Who is this mysterious creature? Why was the thin part the worst part that you just...
Oh, no. And that was it. You eventually decide to turn it on and leave.
Yeah, it's like, okay. No one's going to believe this.
Well, that story may not be true, but this one is. A man named Gino Mikis, or Gino, G-I-N-O, and his wife, along with their grandson, were out in the forests of northwestern Ontario, Canada, far away from one of the closest towns. And this was around 30 miles away from the closest thing, 50 kilometers. When people think of the Canadian wilderness, this is what they're visualizing, right? Forest, greenery, nobody around for miles. This was the typical, what I imagine Canada when it's not white snow, as in everything snowed. That's what I imagine. Now, Gino was a hunter, and he had been for a long time, he had been living there. So he used to hunt, the place around there had moose or meese. How do you say multiple moose? Is it moose? Dang it.
Mises? Moosei?
There's moosei, and there's black bears. We're not gonna look this up. We're just gonna go with our knowledge, Michelle. We're just gonna go with what we know.
So the moosei and the moose
black
pods.
bears and wolves and
Wolves?
Yeah,
Wolves.
having to... Wolves? Wolves?
I swear to God, you said wolves. But what? But also...
That's just my accent.
Wolves. Vicious wolves that came after me in the woods.
I think I did say that. Oh, man. Okay, so when you're from there, you're well aware that there's wild animals. So seeing them around there is pretty common. So according to this article from The Guardian and found by Maddie, who helps research for some of our shows, Gino said, quote, "I've heard many different animals in the wild, but nothing like this. I grew up hunting with my grandfather for the first 12 years of my life. We could hear it moving." Can you make a Canadian accent? Is there such a thing?
Yes, there is. It's funny because two of my neighbors are Canadian. And so it's like, it's more proper American sounding boot. What did you just have Gino say?
I've heard many different animals in the wild, but nothing like this.
I've heard many different animals in the wild, but never one like this.
Yeah.
I think that's close.
I can't try. I always make it weird. Anyway, he said, we could hear it moving. It sounded kind of heavy. But my wife, she got scared, picked up our grandson and started walking fast towards the vehicle. Now, I don't know if we can play this sound, but if we can.
That's pretty spooky. Especially if you were actually out in the, like, there's no potential for it to be a movie. Like, there's no, like, you're out in the woods.
Yep.
That's pretty scary.
Yeah, imagine that. Like, and then some people say, I mean, they turn off the comments, but I remember this when the comments were enabled. People were saying stuff like, oh, that's just a bear when they're dying or when they're doing something, some bear activity. They yell like that. And some of the people saying, no, that's not a bear. I've lived around those areas. I've never heard that in my life. And I have heard a bear make a sound, but it's not that. It's something else. It's just bizarre. But I can imagine that. Like, I don't know. Yeah, obviously, like this guy, run back to the car and just leave.
There's no reason to stay. There's no reason to, like,
be that guy. I'm going to figure this out. Or let's just ignore it.
Even if it is a dying bear, like, who needs to be around a dying
Right?
bear? You know, like, nothing good will come of that.
Yeah. Oh, man. But they say that in the woods, in Minnesota, forest, in the Great Lake region, and central Canada, there are these mysterious creatures that lurk. Wendigos. A.K.A. Wendigo, Wittigo, Winnebago, and Winnetigo. Wettigo, not Winnetigo. And other names. Roughly meaning the evil spirit that devours mankind.
Ooh, dun 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 dun.
This is super, yeah, it's interesting stuff because the Wendigo originates from Native American legends and from certain tribes like the Algonquin and the Ojibwe. They say that whenever a human resorts to cannibalism to survive, they turn into a Wendigo.
Ooh, that's fascinating.
And you'd be surprised. Like, I mean, this was a very, they actually have a condition thing, like a name for a condition called Wendigo psychosis, I believe. I think I have it later on too in the story. But they say that when you have that urge to eat human meat, that's what that's called.
Fascinating. I mean, this kind of goes hand in hand with our cannibalism episode.
Yeah.
If you look at that episode through the eyes of the Wendigo, that's fascinating. Continue. I'm in. I'm hooked.
When settlers and natives found themselves stranded in the winter, they were forced sometimes to eat each other. Yeah, and that created, like, they say that that's when Wendigos were created. Or some people say Wendigos, so that might be the proper way to say it. Some versions say that humans who show too much greediness or gluttony might become possessed by a Wendigo evil spirit. Now, looking up all this stuff, like try to find out when this first started, the first descriptions were, I mean, these are like forever ago. Like, I can't really ID like when this started, but like the descriptions that were, when they were talking about what is this, what's the Wendigo, they're saying that it's an evil spirit or a demon, and that it doesn't have a physical form, which I found like, wait, what? I thought we have seen them. But as the stories kept being passed down, it became known as a beast. I've seen pictures of, like artist, renditions of what does this look like? And it's creepy. It is like this, it's very tall creature. It doesn't have a lot of hair. Actually, it doesn't seem like it has hair. It's just like, it's thin, it has long legs, it's tall, very tall. Some people say that its body is actually matted with hair, and you can't actually see not a Bigfoot. I think they're trying to make a difference between Bigfoot and these guys. But also, some descriptions say that it has yellow skin.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and that it always looks like it's starving. So it's very thin, has a long tongue, long, sharp yellow fangs, claws.
That's scary.
Yeah, and glowing eyes. Yeah.
Did you ever watch that show, The Dead Files? Have you ever watched it?
Yeah.
There was one, they were in New Mexico, which is funny because, Amy, the woman on it, Amy, the psychic, was just like, oh, there's a Wendigo here. That's really weird. They're not usually here, and it's trying to get into the house. She's like, yeah, it's like sticking its head into the house. But yeah, they're not supposed to be down here. Like, I don't know how it got down here. And she just kept saying that, and it was like, And then it's like, how do you explain? How do you go forward from that?
You don't.
Okay, well, it's not supposed to be here, but it is. And then how do we get rid of it? Or like what?
She's like, I don't know. It's just FYI.
I know. That's what she always says about aliens too. She's like, yeah, you're probably being abducted every night. And there's nothing you can do. Which is like always the scariest answer.
Some stories tell that its main goal is to eat human flesh. That's all it lives for. It just wants to eat humans. And that it has several abilities to help it. Some of these characteristics are that it's very strong and immune to harsh weather, and that its senses are heightened. So if you try to hurt it, it can heal and regenerate, and they get stronger as they age. Isn't that cool? Like, I think that's a really cool superpower.
Is it?
You get older and you're just like stronger and stronger and stronger, and then that's it. You're stronger forever.
Strong. You're just strong forever. The strongest, starvingest spirit.
The legend goes as far as to say that it can even drive a person crazy and lure them away by releasing an odor that only that person can smell. And the victim ends up losing sleep and having constant nightmares. And eventually they just go insane. And yeah, it's weird. Some people say that it can control the weather and mimic a person's voice, which is... I think that creeps me out. That gave me chills when I first read it. Because imagine you hear yourself, or imagine you hear your mom. It's just like, hey, Michelle.
I'd be like, she's not here. There's no way she's in the woods.
So, you know how I said, if you eat human flesh, you can become a Wendigo?
Yeah.
Well, it can also happen if you're in contact with one for a long time, which I don't know why you would do that, but...
I don't know either.
Let's say it locks you up and it's there, and you're just tied to somewhere, to a tree trunk, and it's there, just kind of marinating you before it eats you. So you can also become one. But then I'm like, okay, if you become one, will it still eat you? I don't know.
Doesn't it just take your body over?
I don't know, because it's supposed to eat you and kill you and do everything.
I thought it had to have a host that, so it takes over somebody and then you're...
Oh, that's right. And then what would happen to its body then?
I don't know.
Or does it not have a body?
It would be a spiritual form body or something like that.
Yeah.
It can't eat until it takes somebody over or something like that.
Yeah.
Which also makes me wonder what the fuck's going on with that house in New Mexico. When that psychic on Dead Files was like, oh yeah, there's a Wendigo leaning in here, and it's like, someone's going to become a cannibal?
Ooh, who would it be? And then it turns into a whole other show.
Yeah, who's the cannibal? Who's the cannibal in this family? It's me, little Sally, the 4-year-old. Let's
say though, Michelle, seriously, mind experiment here though. Suppose you suddenly start craving human meat. Would you act on it? What would that be like?
I mean, it seems like a few other things would have to go wrong before I, would start craving human meat. There'd just have to be a few things. Have I given up fitting into society altogether? Do I care about murder? There's all these things now that I have to consider when I'm trying to procure my human meat.
What if you don't have to get it yourself? What if you have a provider?
Like Sweeney Todd or something like that?
Or like someone comes by and they're like, hey, psst, come here.
Hey, I got the finest human meat.
Yeah, like super discreet, gets delivered to you in a black bag. I guess that's not discreet.
No, that's...
in an Amazon box.
Yeah, in an Amazon box. It's the most neutral thing you can do. In fact, they probably use drop ship from Amazon to ship human meat.
And all you have to do is get it. It's already sliced for you. You have to... Oh, I'm getting... Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. This example...
This thought experiment went way, way far.
From what we gather, the person who turns into the monster, aka the Wendigo, still remains a part of it physically. Like, so they say that if, let's say you get eaten, or you somehow join this body, because sometimes it doesn't just take you over. Sometimes like you join it, like you're just with it again.
Huh.
Yeah. Because right here it says that the person's being remains near the heart of the Wendigo, and this person's soul can still be saved. So if you get taken by a Wendigo...
Oh, fascinating.
You can still be saved. So here's some ways to do it. Actually, one way. Just kill the creature and the person.
Mm-hmm. All right, yeah.
The second option is to kill the Wendigo only.
Okay.
But the legends start getting really complicated here. Like, even for me, I was just like, there's too many. I think they're just trying to add to it.
Well, that's the thing, too. It's like a First Nation story, and then it's one of those things where I think people looking in are never going to fully get it. You know, like if we're not a part of that culture, we didn't grow up being scared of Wendigos, right?
Yeah.
But if you grew up being scared of Wendigos, but yeah, so we'll always just be looking in on this, but yeah.
Makes sense. Mm-hmm. Because as we kept digging, it was like, okay, so if it gets stronger as it gets older, and it has like superpowers, and it can do like change the weather and voices, and it's super strong, then it's like, how do you get rid of it? How do you kill it? And then some versions say, burn it, or stake it in the heart with the silver weapon, shoot it with the silver bullet. And some are like, this is super complicated. It says, you must first stab it in the heart with silver, disintegrate the heart, put it in a silver box, bury it in a church cemetery.
Too much effort.
The remaining, it's just like, I'll just let it live.
Yeah, it's too much effort. Sorry, I'm not doing it.
Because then it says, the remaining parts need to be disintegrated with a silver knife, salted, burned, the ashes completely scattered. It's just like,
no, too much work.
We'll just live with it. We'll just risk our lives.
Just figure it out. We'll make do. We'll just adapt. It'll be fine.
Oh man. But like for us, right? Like this is just a legend, like something that we talk about, and just something to freak out little kids or adults or whatever. But there were some reports of encounters and murders related to the Wendigo. In 1661, history, your eyes light up. A document from Jesuit relations talks about several men that were sent out to North America, and they had been killed the previous winter in a strange way. The document talked about how it was reported to them where the men had been displaying a combination of lunacy, hypochondria, frenzy, acting weird, that they had become ravenous for human flesh, and that they would pounce on men, women, children, like dogs, like werewolves, and just eat them. Like they would actually... Yeah. This document also says the following. This ailment attacked our deputies, and as death is the sole remedy among those simple people for checking such acts of murder. Checking? Yeah, right, yeah. As of murder, they were slain in order to stay the course of their madness. I don't know if this is Old English or if I wrote it wrong, but that's what it says.
You know what's weird? Is that sounds like rabies.
Ooh. Oh, no. You're right. You're right. I remember looking this up back in high school. How they act.
Yeah, but I mean, that's just like...
Oh, jeez. And
but
they killed them because they had rabies.
Well, there's no hope if they have rabies. So, like,
is it guaranteed death or what?
Yeah, it's like only 5 people have ever survived it, and that's only been like, if you don't get that, if you get rabies, you're done. If you suspect you got bit by an animal with rabies, you have to go get the shot, like, immediately.
What?
Yeah, you can't get full-blown rabies. There's no way to cure it.
Wow.
At Scary Mystery Surprise, we care. So if you get bit by a strange animal that you don't know and suspect it could have rabies, please go find the antidote at your local medical center. It's an emergency. Do not get rabies. You will probably not survive it.
All I know about rabies, aside from that, because I already forgot everything, was about from The Office, where Michael Scott made that race. Was it rabies? I don't know, but it was like, it causes the fear of water.
Yes, that's rabies. Yeah, you're super thirsty, you can't drink, you start to foam at the mouth. You need to spread rabies so you bite people.
Like a zombie.
Yeah.
Oh man, anyway. There was another case that was documented in 1878, and this was on the website Legends of America. A trapper from Alberta, Canada, another Canada guy, whose name was the coolest, Swift Runner.
What? That's great.
Wow. He was a trader with the Hudson's Bay Company. A few years before the incident, he had also served as a guide for the Northwest Mounted Police. It was a harsh winter in 1878, and his family had no luck finding food, just like the other Cree families. In an unfortunate series of events, the oldest son, one of the 6 children that he had, died of starvation, and eventually Swift became a victim of Wendigo psychosis, which is that thing I mentioned where like you want human meat, human flesh. Emergency food supplies were available only 25 miles away, but he didn't even try to get there to survive. Instead, he killed the rest of his family and ate them. And this episode is sponsored by HelloFresh. Imagine. This one is not.
You could kill your whole family, or you can order HelloFresh. That's our commercial. That's our commercial for it.
Eventually, he confessed, and he was executed at Fort Saskatchewan. And there was another case. This one actually is very famous, and it's Wendigo psychosis. It's the case of Jack Fiddler, an Ojibwe chief and medicine man. He claimed to have defeated over 14 Wendigos in his lifetime, with creatures being sent by his enemies and others who had supposedly become Wendigos themselves. And in the records of Hudson's Bay Company, there exist documents saying that there were indeed several incidents of people turning Wendigo and eating human flesh. But in 1907, Jack Fiddler and his brother were arrested for murder. Jack committed suicide, and his brother was sentenced to life in prison. So justice was kind of served, I guess.
Yes, but I don't know.
Terrible. Even today, though, people claim to see Wendigos out in the areas of northern Ontario, near a place known as the Cave of the Wendigo. I want to go there. I mean, I want to learn about it, but I don't know anymore. Like,
you don't want to get a Wendigo spirit attached to you?
No, I don't know. What if I start craving human flesh again?
I mean, again.
Just kidding.
Well, luckily, there seem to be starting to grow whatever meat in dishes, so you might be able to just have a lab-grown human meat soon.
Oh, no. Okay. Anyway, they say that it roams in the woods of northern Minnesota and Canada. And though more sightings were reported between the late 1800s through the 1920s, talks of Wendigos, strange noises, and sights of large human-eating giants in the wilderness are not as uncommon as we want them to be. For it to become a legend, somebody must have eaten other humans, and maybe that's why they had a warning: don't eat humans or you're going to become one of these. But I mean, honestly, being one of those doesn't sound that bad if you really just see it, just pure just logic. You're this strong thing that can control the weather. Hello,
and you can mimic people's voices.
I mean, how many podcasts could you start?
Oh my God!
It's just
my God! I'm
Aaron Mankey.
I'm Aaron Mankey. I'm Ira Glass.
Yeah, see, you could just do that. I'm Emma Chamberlain. How, guys? But, geez, no, that's terrible. Either way, I would still be careful because there are creatures out in the woods. I mean, from the noises that you hear from people, Bigfoot,
Yeah.
Wendigos, like what else? There's the little people.
God, there's so many things.
But I think bears and
I mean, just
moose.
typical ghosts, like murder victims. They're out there. We don't know. We don't know what's in the woods. Just
Yeah.
stay out of the fucking woods.
Anyway, yeah, that's what I got for the Wendigo.
Ooh.
Bizarre creature, but yeah, stay out of the woods.
Stay out of the woods. What are we going to talk about next week, Edwin?
I don't know. I think it'll be a surprise.
Woo! All right.
All right, bye.
Bye.